Hello, hello. Happy Sunday, everyone. Saturday night for most of you in the US. Hi to the regulars, Rocket, Donna, Solitary Mission, David, how are you? Sean C. Okay, got a few people here already. Ted1775, how are you, man? As usual, discussing recent videos and streams and notable topics that are getting some really nice comments. Again, I can talk about things from my perspective, but sometimes the fruitful discussion underneath from other people's experience, their own words, what they've reflected on. Don't forget, everything each of us goes through, we make sense of it in our own way, but you can't make sense of it in every way. And often other people illuminate something really important in their own words. So thanks to a lot of the really good comments under the videos and streams. Hey, Crummy BCR, how you going? I recently asked a question in the community tab leading up to this stream. And the question is, I have a theory that a lot of hard stances on relationships in the men's community comes from wanting revenge on the ex that hurt you in the past, or some sort of justice, and not just from healthy boundaries that you might set, not to be hurt again. Put another way, you say to yourself, well, I was in a relationship that was all about her, so from now on, it is going to be all about me in the next relationship. And I know consciously and at the front, we don't think that way, but a lot of our defensive stance, the way we put a wall between us and the next person. I've just talked to too many people, and I noticed it myself. When you're going through getting the same types of results in relationships, the same type of distance, disconnection, frustration, and disappointment, after you've learnt your lesson, say, and you've started to kind of know where you're not going to be walked all over, you do it in such a self-protective way that there's no oxygen left in the room for another person. They can't actually even get to you or read you properly. And you're a walking, talking, defensive, sometimes political thing that is so strong and depersonalized that, like, why would anyone see who you are? The real you, the quirky you. Thanks for the super chat, Schlitz Maltz Liquor. I really appreciate it. If anyone's here during this stream here live, if you'd like to ask me a question, super chat me, just like Schlitz has. And for instance, it'll show up like this, and I can read it, and I can show it on screen. But otherwise, feel free to just, if you want to ask me a question during this stream, put 3 yellow emojis before your question, just so I can see it in this feed. And then I can zero in on it that it's a comment or a question for me. But if you want to make sure I see and read the comment live, super chat me. So, hey Ted, Ari, yeah, hit the like, guys. Basically, YouTube would really wants you to engage with the channel, whether it's a comment, whether it's a like, whether it's whatever. They can't tell who's watching, who's just listening in the background. They want eyeballs engaged. And the way that they can tell the most that you're engaged is if you're clicking and typing and doing something. So click like, subscribe, dislike the channel or the stream. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And yeah, being sort of, whether you want to call it hypocritical in the way you relate to people, whether it's friendship-wise or romantic, if you're so defensive that you're never going to feel bad again, in a very not in a grown-up way, but in a kind of way that you you're protecting a child. And I'm not trying to be condescending. I know a lot of us have been there where we were hurt so bad that you kind of almost regress to the aloneness and the pain of, a child who was abandoned and you don't know what to do. And so you build up a persona, almost a superhero in you that will never be hurt again. I just I've found that it's very instructive and very helpful to analyze this stuff like your grandfather would. Some elder that's looking out for you and giving you a talk and saying, no, 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 I know you're hurt, I know you're feeling whatever, but let's look at this from both sides of you. Let's look at what actually happened. Let's look at what the best way to conduct yourself is. What's honorable, things like that. One thing I often talk about, because a lot of guys will sometimes rightly point out the unfairness that, an ex did or the way women treat men, but them adopting the same posture as women to balance that, to fight back, to defend yourself against grown-up females that act like 5-year-olds. The answer isn't acting the same way, acting like a 5-year-old adult to defend yourself against these people. I often say it's not really about what women want. What behavior would other men respect as well? Because the thing I notice is that while the recent Andrew Tate thing is a sometimes necessary calibration to get the pendulum swinging back to guys being more masculine and thinking about themselves in their own right, what they need, what a man needs, not just listening to what mummy or women want and supplicating to that and then being walked all over, used and laughed at, and then they pick the a-hole anyway and not the nice guy. What that shows is also, yeah, that guy can get short-term success, make money, get a lot of women, but long-term, what man's going to trust you? What men are you going to keep that can trust you in the long term? They talk about, yeah, I will go to war with all these men, but really, the tactics and the personality that you would be proud of, that other men would be proud of, that guys you could have long-term friends, that you could have long-term relationships with. What do you respect? Not just what works short term that I'd rather forget, but I get I get a little bit of success here and there, but I have to keep continually burning bridges. I don't really think that's a great tactic for myself, at least. You're free to do whatever you want, but you're not free from the consequences of adopting those short-term strategies that the Andrew Tates of the world might adopt. And I'm not saying that the message that Andrew Tate sort of espouses is wholly untrue or inaccurate. I respect a lot of the stuff he says, and I think that's a good deal of why he became so popular so quickly. In the same way, although in a different way, the same way Jordan Peterson years before, he said a lot of stuff that people were desperate to hear and that they needed to calibrate themselves to having more control over their lives and not being used. Andrew Tate was a message for a very basic, often cartoonish message that would still be healthy to calibrate people in the right direction, and not to regress back to supplicating towards women. So just something to think about. Again, most of the stuff I talk about in my videos and my streams and my channel and the questions I pose is just revisiting a lot of our assumptions, making sure that what we believe isn't what we believed 20 years ago, and we lock it in a vault and we think it's going to serve us for the rest of our lives. If it's really true, if it helps us, then it should be true continually and it should be able to be refined. Ted1775 says, Human, what is your opinion on NoFap? Don't really know too much about it. I don't really have an opinion on it, to tell you the truth. I've just seen it in passing, like cars going by on a freeway, and there appears to be benefits. Some people say it's a crock. I really don't know enough about it to comment. Roman says, I love the color t-shirt you're wearing today. Same color as my car. Some of the comments left under my question. Ellery said, I realize that a relationship is like a plant. You have to water it from time to time to help it grow. I wasn't doing that in my first relationship and it ended. I learned from that mistake and now I take the time to think about and nurture my relationship as much as I think about the pursuit and pursue my career. My relationships are a lot better now and much closer to what I want. I like the wording. They're a lot better now. We a lot of times having a perfect bar, a black and white binary view of the world, a binary view of women and men, what we are completely and perfectly is inaccurate because it's a set and forget attitude where you never have to be engaged with what you think now. You never have to really think about the woman in front of you because you think you're so smart that you've got all the answers. And then a shrewd person, a narcissistic, a sociopathic kind of person who's smarter than you because you're on the autopilot of, a 20-year-old or a teenager that found some sort of binary one-trick pony truth, they can manipulate you because they're constantly playing a game in real time and they're very adept at it and you're not. You think the answers to life are set and forget and you've got a library that you just pull out a bunch of quotes, so to speak. Too many guys, I think, that they think they know the answers and they know things perfectly. From a very binary standpoint, a lot of them get taken advantage of by someone who's very skilled, like a narcissist who loves in real time seeing what's in front of them and going, okay, you're this guy. You believe this to be true, don't you? I know that. Even if you don't tell me, let me turn your dials and I'm going to enjoy this game. And if you're not kind of, whether you want to call it playing a game in real time or processing what's happening to you in real time, the conversation you're having, listening to what she says, seeing if she contradicts what she says with her actions, taking enough time to kind of see if it's an act, especially over the honeymoon period, and if it subsides and they're the same person that you can trust, that you thought had potential, they do have potential later on, because all the sunshine and rainbows has kind of settled into everyday life and they're still the same person. That's the kind of stuff I would hope guys, the mundane, it's not very exciting because a lot of people see relationships with men and women as fireworks, the initial stuff, and they just keeps trying to recycle it over and over again. And it's a constant treadmill of chasing after that stuff because the initial buzz will never last. What you hope for is the initial things you see that, say, your friend or a parent that cared for you saw, like, oh, yeah, human looks like he's getting along with this person. He looks like he's happy. That kind of dispassionate, stoic mindset, it carries all the way through, even after the initial buzz and discovery of another person ends. That's what you want to last. But if you just focus on the buzz, if you just focus on getting to the bedroom, that stuff is just short-term, wanting short-term hits, like someone who's addicted to alcohol or anything else. It's just another substance to be addicted to. And the buzz wears off, and then the hangover happens later on. And the hangover, usually with that kind of dating or relating to other people, is just severe heartbreak over heartbreak. And you just think, oh, well, the faster you keep pedaling and keep doing the same thing, it'll work out. Again, I don't believe in luck. I used to much more, but the only part of luck that I do believe statistically and practically speaking is crossing paths with the person, by chance coming across a person, seeing them, making the effort to go. But the initial discovery has a lot to do with luck. But everything you do, whatever you try, whatever you push away, how you speak, how open you are, what you shut up about, what old patterns you like, that's all on you, right? It's 95% all up to your effort or your apathy. So, and you can go back and forth with a lot of, intellectual discussion about free will and stuff. And even if a lot of you will pull out stats and say, well, these stats point to X human, and so you're full of BS. Well, the stats apply to most people who aren't philosophically interested. They don't love having deep conversations. They're not articulate. They're not trying to be as sharp and as accurate in real time with the discussions they're having. They're not listening to people. They're in their own head. They're distracted by this. They're not really listening to the other person. They think they are their world and this is their world. And even when they have discussions with other people, they kind of listen to words they're saying, but they're not listening to them. They're not really paying attention to the other person, what their lives are about, whether or not they're compatible, whether they're being disrespected, whether they're being ignored, whether you're just a boyfriend object or whether you're really on the date and they see you and listen to you. All of the statistics apply to most people who are on autopilot, just wanting a passive buzz from their entertainment, whether that entertainment is from this or from another person in front of them. I think a lot of people are so conditioned to what they want from here, this is their best friend, that when they're on a date, if they don't see this kind of best friend in another person on a date, they kind of switch off and they insist that person is like this. So you have to be interested enough to reject this because you know what doesn't work anymore. You're tired of this. You're tired of swiping left and right. You're tired of this resembling your real life dating life, and you don't see how closely connected this is to the failures you're having in your dating life. Yeah, we've got over 100 people watching and only a couple of likes. So if you can, do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, join the channel, whatever. It helps me out, guys. Casey asks, let's see. Casey asks, Human, do you think a global economic recession or collapse would reset the mating dating market back to more traditional biological narratives as a Pandora's box opens for good? Not necessarily. If there's a reset, right? If, like a lot of guys talk about, if this change, would things get better? Again, it's kind of like, and again, I'm not being condescending here. I'm talking about human nature, both men and women. If the world bestows upon you the reset that you want to force people to act fairly, human nature will still be lazy, right? So say you reset the world, everyone has to go to survival mode and act responsibly. As soon as that's recalibrated and then we can act, it might work for the short term. People will think they go back to normal. What happened during this last, or the restrictions we had recently? For a brief time, people kind of pause and go, "Oh my God, what's going on? Let's really think about this. Let's contemplate." But then as soon as the doors open again and people say you can do what you want again, what do you get? The same old thing again. So even if we reset, if we don't change, if you and the individuals who are in front of you don't choose to say, you know what, no more of the past. This was a wake-up call. If you're the person that just keeps saying, yeah, Monday, I'm going to start my diet, then it doesn't matter what the world does to help you. You are still not going to do it. You're asking for someone else to do all the hard work in a relationship for you. So it could help, but if each person doesn't care, if you're the chick that's just waiting for a bouquet of flowers to feel good and you're not going to change because finally, someone cares about you or gives you the bouquet of flowers and you're just going to act like the wretch you did before. Again, you've got to want to change. The world's going to do what it's going to do. So, anyway. Crummy VCR says, knee-jerk reactions to bad relationships is typical, but if they are so toxic, why were you ever there in the first place? Sure, some people are snakes in the grass, but I've had harder questions. That's right. Some people don't get to the point of needing to vet harder because I described with myself, I grew up with very caring and, fair women in my life at home. My mother and my sister, they had their roles, guys had their roles. We were respectful. I expected and saw women in a different way. When I started dating, I still operated in that way. That's how I was cemented. my neuroplasticity was kind of, it was hardened, and it's okay, that's women, and I act like this balanced, fair, reciprocal guy. I'm a guy, she's a chick, and we care about each other in these ways, in these roles, in these ways. There's no laziness. You put effort, but you get it back. You go out into the world, and it's a one-way street. So for some guys, you need that one-way street to keep kicking you in the face enough before you realize, okay, women out there aren't like my family. Women aren't there like my little bubble that I'm used to. So sometimes it takes a while. Any other questions? Remember, if you want to ask me a question during the stream here, if you're in this chat, put 3 yellow emojis before your question, or super chat me and I can see it. Okay, some more questions. Comments under the question I posed. I'd agree in extreme cases for sure. And T-Dog here is responding to this question I ask. Are guys making relationships now one-way and selfish because they're tired of them being done to them? So women are selfish and completely one-way in their perception of relationships, and guys say, well, can't beat them, join them. I'm tired of being a doormat. It's going to be one-way from me to them. Well, if anything, how do you like it? And at least I won't be hurt again. But there are also unseen things that you may not get hurt, but you may not like the consequences of those relationships and the aftermath as well, and what you get conditioned into. So T-Dog says, I'd agree in extreme cases for sure. It's understandable these days that men who've been wronged so badly would have a need to put themselves first and develop rock-solid boundaries with a somewhat harsh outlook. But revenge is a poor master. As Mark Twain said, anger is an acid that will ultimately harm the vessel it's in. For anyone who struggled with this, check out Robert Glover's book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. Yeah, I've heard about that one. It's fairly popular. He continues, especially the concept of the covert contracts we have with ourselves really helped me a lot. A lot of us don't realize the covert contracts we have in ourselves, the set and forget things that liberated us and gave us kind of a bit more confidence back in the day. And we kind of run on autopilot based on these memes and these ways of thinking and reacting. We say the same things over and over again because that thing worked back then. And 5, 10, 20 years later, we're still reflexing with those comments and that posture. It doesn't work all the time. We outgrow them, or even if they're still true, they need adjustment to be aligned with who you are now as a 30, 40, 50-year-old guy. I think there's nothing, there are a lot of things sadder, but there's nothing as sad as a 50-year-old guy operating on, the principle and righteous principles that he, pumps his fist at as the 20-year-old version of himself. Prince Revolver, thank you for the super chat. He says, men are the only ones infatuated with the past. Women have openly stated what they desire more than anything is freedom. I want women to have said freedom. Just stop crying about your choices. Yes, unfortunately, men are hardwired with reflecting on our past because, you look back on survival. We hunt animals. We need to remember how they move, how we coordinate things, where we remember where Joe and Frank were. They're going to be on the left and the right. We're going to zero in on this. We count on each other based on the spatial and time recognition of how we trust Joe and Frank from the past because they've proven themselves and they can be trusted and we know they're going to be there. And based on history, I know this animal moves this way, so we can do this. And Joe's going to do this because he's skilled on this and blah, blah, blah. So past, future, and present, men do this dance of collectively gauging what works based on it. Women don't. Women, it's just the moment and their desires going forward. That's all it is. They don't have to be responsible for their past. And also, it would psychologically kill them. Because you look at history in the tribe, if all the men get destroyed by another tribe and then that tribe come in, the species would die out if all of those women wouldn't just begrudgingly, even if they love the guys that, were killed by this other tribe, they would say, well, okay, for my children and everything, we have to survive. So we've got to get along with these guys. And eventually we want to have more kids and, It's not nice, it's cringy, but it's hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, guys, isn't going to kind of just be switched off comfortably and stoically in the blink of an eye just because we have iPhones. And Mark Twain wrote a book within the last 100 years. Like, it's great that we progress, but this stuff needs to become hardware. It's very, very new software, and it's good software, but it needs to embed as, hardware, or at least permanent software over time. The best we can do is make a permanent software within our own lifetimes. Roman says, my husband and I both love human. Didn't sound like it last week, Roman. Let's see. Oh, here's a comment by my buddy Rocket. Rocket, as you age, you find you have to lower your standards anyway. Or I would say make your standards more realistic. You need to dance in accordance with reality. You can't do things that your body and sometimes your mind can't do the things you were doing when you were 20. But sometimes they're a positive, especially with your mind. Your mind was running 100 miles an hour on, red soda, and you were just sugared up on like feelings and hormones, and you'd deal with the consequences later. But now it's more considered. So physically, yes, but also, for instance, you enjoy things in a different way. I know now the way I train is different to the way I trained when I was younger, but there's a nuance and what you focus on and how you plan and execute your training is much different. It's nothing like the mechanics of what you lift and what you do from the outside might seem the same, but it's very different. So I'm guessing appreciate the season you're in. A lot of people are chasing the past or fearful of the future. It's kind of like time's passing, man. Just make the choices you can make now with the best you can do. Enjoy the season you're in. There's nothing more cringy than like a woman or a guy in their winter years trying, like, mentally just anchored to their summer and spring years and thinking they can kind of reverse the clock. Be the best you can be now, but you're sleepwalking. Crummy VCR says, oh, did I finish all of your comment, Rocket? No, I haven't. Low stance. Most people have been through so many failed relationships without learning anything. Yeah. You need to learn, take it forward, and then in real time, engage with that in the choices you make and the conversations you make. Like, don't let that, the things you say just be memes from the past. Just keep creating new in real time memes that you're proud of that are just part of your language. Don't just keep repeating things thinking you're clever. Learn from the past, use it in the present, be mindful of the future. But that's about as much as I would push that. Crummy VCR, it's like Pete says, we have MS-DOS with the Windows 11 world. No wonder we are getting blackpilled so often. Our hardware is out of date. I say get used to updating yourself on the frequent. Yeah, keep swapping out your hardware as much as you can. Because the software updates are just coming in and they won't work in this world. The software updates are a given, and you won't be able to use the hardware. So you need to swap out your hardware. A lot of the broads won't relate to the analogy as much, but anyway. Any more comments, guys? Make sure if you are part of the stream here, you add 3 yellow emojis or super chat me. Let's continue with the comments. David P commented, if a man has a habit of rolling over in the relationship and letting the woman walk all over him, but he now wants to reclaim his power or self-confidence or whatever, I see that as a good thing. He's learning from his mistakes and working to improve. If he does it in a balanced, intelligent way, that's the goal. If he's just being a narcissist, then that's wrong. Again, I don't think it's anything guys would respect when you act like the chick to get revenge on the chick. Yeah, humiliating her might give you a momentary buzz, but I've always thought that revenge is female, but justice is male as a concept. So, yeah, some guys can sleep well at night, but yeah, I acted like a 5-year-old to her because she acted like a 5-year-old to me. But when someone acts like a 5-year-old, I think it's much better to act like a elder and put them in their place rather than act like another 5-year-old to put them in their place. But that's me. You can choose whatever you want. I just think the easiest thing to do is act like a 5-year-old and reciprocate the way they're behaving, but it takes a lot more effort. But what I would say is that if your posture is always operating from an elder or someone you want to be, like you want to speak better, you want to think better, you want to be more mature, you want to be more responsible, that will give you a life that's giving you less bad consequences. That will give you a life where you're more responsible. That will give you a life with much less childish mistakes, much fewer children walking all over you because you see children very quickly. You hear children very quickly. You don't date them because you're used to speaking and thinking that way and you know what's comfortable to relate to. So then when you go on a date and you've got a bimbo, that the adult in you is like, yeah, I know why this feels wrong because I'm adept at the language and the way I relate. I can't relate to children. And this is a child by the way they act, the way they dress, the way they speak, by their contradictions, by the entitlements and expectations. So, more comments. L. Rhodius says, I think there's some truth in this. It's not a healthy way to handle a real relationship, so there has to be some middle ground where you guard yourself against even being taken advantage of again, while also being open to new experiences. As you say, healthy boundaries. I can understand why some people feel like revenge on the ex vibes, though. I can understand why some people feel this revenge on the ex vibes, though. I feel like most people have been there. I I agree. I have. I'm sure most people have too. But living there, I think when all things are said and done, when you've settled, no one agree. Everyone would agree that you shouldn't live there. In the same way that you can have fun for short term, it gets old quickly. You can have a drink or two. Becoming a drunk is not good. Like, so we know the excess of something is not good. We know that going on a holiday is healthy, but you can't live on holiday, as I always keep using as an analogy. Some things ostensibly feel and look good. Like, what's the problem? I love a holiday, but how many times have you gone on a holiday and say, wow, if I could live here? And then after a week, it gets old. And it's like, you know what? I want to go back home. You need to find out where home is, and you really need to know where it is, both in your ethics and the way you think and speak. Holidays are fun. Fetishes are fun, but they're not a relationship. TJ says, human, ignoring statistics, in my opinion, is a bad idea. Second marriages fail at a 70% rate. Therefore, I've never get married a second time. Why try to beat the odds? The house always wins. Sure. And those sayings as well. There are a lot of sayings that make complete sense, but notice how there's a lot of other sayings that contradict that very intelligent saying that also makes sense. So it's also the nuance of where you are. So for instance, a guy, if we need to look at the nuance of things, overall, the general statistic across all of society paints a certain picture. Almost 60% of marriages end in divorce. 70 to 80% of women initiate those divorces. It seems like a bad idea, and it usually is in most cases. But if you are the same guy at 20 who got married and divorced, that you drink a lot, you drive too fast, you've had like you have no discipline, you can't curb your desires, you're just always you know fueled on your hormones. And then you, at 25, you do the same thing, and 35, and it's just the way you are, man. And then you can say, well, given the statistics of that guy, and most guys who are like that, but say, how many people speak and think like you and I who are interested in this sort of stuff, who really want and try to speak and act like this in real life? How much are the statistics really analyzing us? They are not. And I'm not saying we or the people we're looking for are unicorns, but we have to also be realistic enough to know that the statistics aren't really focusing on the subset of us. We are part of the overall societal statistics, but how much of me, realistically and responsively, as much as I'm trying to be, how much of me applies to the average guy that drives too fast and will bang any chick who's hot and just thinks that relationships are luck? How much of the statistics apply to someone who's trying to intentionally live by his values? I'm not perfect, but I try as much as possible in real time by these conversations every week, every day. Fallibly so in a lot of cases, but I am trying, compared to the determinists. Well, it's, men and women are like this, nothing you can do, fate, we all die one day, what's the point? Just get what you can get. You have no power. So have a bit of nuance. If you are lazy, then the statistics will apply to you much more. If you are not, the statistics may still apply to you. They definitely do. Not maybe. They definitely will. But to what degree? In the same way, all women have female nature. But when you go on a date, through your conversation, through your judgment, through your ability to restrain yourself and sort of spend enough time to see how much you can trust this person based on what you want out of life to judge if they're compatible, how much do the autopilot statistics of society apply to you? I'm not being lexically kind of evasive here, right? I'm saying realistically, if you're more centered and more present in how you deal with yourself in real time, day to day, and you're not just, offloading life and your choices to the stats and nature and biology, the more you try as much as you can to adhere to your choices and ethics, the less those things apply to you, because you are stubbornly trying to practice your rules rather than saying, well, I just believe in the rules of life that everyone else thinks is sensible, and therefore it's all about this. And stubbornly or not, that's what I calibrate myself to. Do what you want. TJ, thank you very much for the super chat donation. I appreciate it. He says, appreciate what you do more than you'll ever know. Thanks, man. I appreciate the donation. Anyone else want to comment during the stream, like TJ, super chat me, or add 3 emojis before your question to me in the stream, and I'll try and pinpoint it. How long have we been going? 38 minutes. Well, will I be able to do a stream under an hour? I think I've done it once or twice in years of doing this. How long have I been doing streams? For about 3 years, I think. Anyway. Okay. I read that out, didn't I? Yes. Lat QCD92, long-time subscriber. How are you, man? He says, I don't know if such a stance is motivated by revenge so much. Yeah, but I would interrupt the comment by saying, it's hard to tell, but you kind of know by how you're approaching it. You know how much you're hiding of your former self when you're engaging with a person, how much you're saying, well, I'm not going to say this or show this anymore because women can't be trusted. Okay, that's sensible. But at what point, through your own judgment, judging this person, do you trust your judgment enough to know, well, okay, baby steps, I'll open this door. I'll see how much I can trust her with this. She betrayed me. She's just like the rest, maybe. But you need to kind of test and be sensible with these things. I'm not saying go on a date and share your PIN number with somebody. I'm saying go on the date and take baby steps towards trusting your own judgment based on your empirical evidence with what you know to be true through your past failures, through your impression of what women are like, as well as what you've learned in the manosphere, what you've read, the data, the science. Use all that. But the last and the biggest primary filter you should filter it through is your lived experience, your empirical filter that everything gets, the abstract, sensible data is filtered through your life and what you've known to be true. That's the last filter, because a lot of the data will match what you kind of feel and know and what you've seen in your life. And then that will actually make your what you've seen in your life, what you experience, even more true. It's very solid. So you can really trust this about women or your boundaries going forward. But if you just trust the manosphere, and as I've kind of said, the manosphere compared to what it was when I started making a channel many years ago and where I was, is very, very different to what it is now. Now it's a lot of it's very juvenile. It used to be a lot more mature. A lot of it is just clickbaity. Look at what this person did. That's stupid. That makes me feel better. Women are stupid. Men are stupid. Women, this, posture, just all this, a lot of non-stoic garbage. Not very much useful stuff. Not a good amount of conversation going on that would help a person in their real life. So anyway, I got off topic. Jack Dawes says, morality, if you think about it, is just making choices based on predicting the outcome. One's morality, if they are smart, is determined by experience. Yeah. And again, the realization to come to that comment, Jack, with you, is the kind of thinking I want guys to think about in their own language, like you've just demonstrated in this. You come to your own ethics based on language like this. This is what you need to get to. Speak in your own way like I am on these streams. So then when you're in front of Chicky Poo on a date, you can talk like this. Jack can talk like this. He can think like this. That's going to serve you well in the moment, rather than feeling nervous on a date, fumbling through your Rolodex of memes and plucking one out as a smart comment that you think that'll save you. It's not. Women are working in real time, but they're based off of their emotions. They just feel the way they feel, and they'll say and do whatever they want in real time to get the outcome they want and to feel good. A guy wants to, in real time, the best thing that serves him is what actually is true, what works, and him taking care of himself logically. Because what we say generally isn't just what makes us feel good, is what is actually true. And that makes us feel even better. We don't, the immoral childish guy, like the avalanche of guys spawned from this Andrew Tate era, are 5-year-olds that will say and do anything like a salesman, like he is. Again, I don't completely disrespect anything I don't completely discount everything he said, but it spawned a generation of 5-year-old guys saying and doing whatever they need to say and do like a salesperson to be able to get what they want from women. Because why? Because women are doing this. That's life. The strongest survive or adapt to the way of women in the world, and just they're doing it, we do it too, and I get what I want next, right? But a lot of guys won't respect you, and you won't have any long-term relationships with your buddies, or you won't have any long-term relationships with women either. But getting to the point like Jack here, and the way I'm speaking, you start to kind of through a lot of these more sensible, mature discussions, your own writing, reflection on these things, in my case, making videos as well, really kind of chewing on a lot of these topics. So you're responsible for them. The videos I make, I do them in such a way to make them real to me, to put them out in the world to you guys so we can discuss them. I can go on to the next video. I can chew on these things. And having a tactile way of expressing these ideas through writing, through videos, they really cement in my vocabulary and how I speak and how I think. And I would encourage you guys, even if you don't make videos, to do that just in writing. The physical act of writing actually embeds in yourself. So if you start writing and clarifying things and finding the right words and sentences, and you keep doing that, your language and your ability to speak with people will become more fluid and more accurate to who you are now. You're going to listen to yourself speaking, and you'll be going to be able to say the next sentence and the next sentence like I'm doing now. And it will be in real time in terms of who you are, because you're going to be listening to yourself saying these words. You're not just going to be frozen on a date and then just fumbling and nervously like flipping through that mental Rolodex of what can I say that's clever so I can be around my buddies, or what can I say that's clever so I can be around this chick and I can sustain a relationship. What happens when your clever Rolodex of memes that impress a girl run out in a couple of hours to a couple of weeks? And then the honeymoon period, the buzz of that wears off. You're left with nothing, because there's nothing inside you. In the same way that there's nothing inside a hollow bimbo, other than the superficial stuff at the start. So again, this is all about you. Either you care enough about this stuff to philosophically make your life better, because this is the only way your life is going to be calmer, more consistently tranquil, is if you have an interest philosophically in speaking and ethically putting the speaking and the thinking into practice. Because remember, I think Aristotle said this: ethics are nothing without practice. Ideas and the things we kind of, proudly, righteously, like Martin Luther King sort of think and say in private, they mean nothing. And there's a liberating aspect to actually doing this in public and speaking those words and acting that way, and rejecting what's not good for you. Like, the more you do it, the better it is. The more courage you develop in sort of being proud about doing what's right as well. So I encourage people to keep doing it. Humans focus on the individual. Your life, my life, continues to be underrated. I think so. I'm not pumping myself up, but you just get such interesting conversations with people you recognize. They're talking from this position rather than the anesthetized meme conversations where, that you've been conditioned by only being alert and aware of this, what you're reading in real time here. Oh, what does this post say? What are they saying? Oh my God, what does she say? This is where you're focused in real time. And then you put this down, you're in front of someone on a date, and it's kind of like your mind's wandering. It's connected to this garbage way of relating. Not just to this device, but this way of relating. And then your muscle is not exercised to this. It's not exercised to one-on-one. It's only exercised to group or just to yourself. It's just exercised to one or many. There's a lot of disconnection there. AC says, Human, you seem to be a lot less MGTOW than in earlier videos. What would you care to talk about journey? I've talked about it here and there, but mainly I just got frustrated that I couldn't talk realistically, balanced about the nuances. Like, before it was a lot more philosophical, a lot more, if we would agree on something, like, say back then it was like, generally women will never love you, right? I think TFM coined the phrase, and it's accurate. But then the moment you start saying, yeah, but if you actually look to do this and to avoid, no, the conversation started to butt in more and more. It's like, no, that's airtight. No woman will ever love you. It's like, yeah, but if I approach a conversation where I insist that we talk, no, sorry, there's no buts. If you don't parrot the memes that were said by someone, an intelligent comment that TFN mentioned, it's kind of like, no, we're just repeating memes. Like, the conversation started to become suffocated, and then it disappeared. And then it was either you're with us or against us. It's like, well, look, I'm shoulder to shoulder with you guys, but I'm I've got my own way of looking at things, but you want me to either follow the church of MTGTOW now, or I can't talk to you anymore. I can't be part of the conversation. Or you are going to, like a bimbo, you're going to character assassinate me and shame me just like a woman does. And when men started to shame other men, that I might be talking maturely, sensibly, civilly, I'll let you speak the way you want. I'm not going to condemn you. I'm not going to shame you, but allow me to, let's have a live and let live attitude. Let's have two different points of view talking, and let's see to find a common ground of what's generally true. Like most women are emotionally driven. Most women have this nature. So what can you do if you still want to date? If you're a guy who wants a family, if you want to go monk, like how can we intelligently refine the library in these different areas of going your own way, right? And what's good for men and boundaries. No, you just repeat this meme, she'll never love you. You just repeat Briefolt's law. You just repeat hypergamy. It's like, go out and touch grass, man. It's like you can sit here and repeat memes from morning till night, go to bed, not get any sleep, and then wake up and repeat this neurotic VR cycle, or you can put it to the test, as the Spartans said. Put the words to the test and see if it's actually true. Prince Revolver says, at 33, communication has become the most important thing for me in order for a relationship to work. I don't have it in me anymore to argue with women. Me either. I completely let go of women, and I would only deal with individuals that happen to be women, but individuals, first and foremost, that happen to be women, if they would be sensible. Any more that I'm tipping guys who they've got the manosphere as their personality that leads, I can understand why they're weird to anyone other than their brothers in the manosphere, which I can have conversations like that, but the more esoteric and cartoonish it becomes, it's like, dude, do you want to talk about reality? Because all of this stuff we're frustrated about that we're trying to refine and get right is part of reality. You can't be a scientist in theory, but you need to get the beakers out and start pouring, chemicals around and start sort of, in a physics way. You can't just talk about mechanics. You have to put two objects in a test and see if they bump heads and see how they react in the real world. It's only a theory towards reality. But if reality confirms the theory, then it's actually a staple. I don't know. Yeah, communication. Most people don't. They rely on their memes to make the relationship work. And even if it does last, you can't keep resuscitating the memes of the honeymoon period into a long-term relationship. It's too obvious after the buzz of the honeymoon period ends. You're both there resuscitating a corpse, pumping it faster and faster to keep it alive. And it's like you've heard those same things over and over again. There's no real-time conversation coming from my mouth and from yours that confirms the buzz. The buzz continues in a lower level because you're continually in real time expressing who you are, how you think and what you share and your common values. But if you're parroting it because it works in a salesman, Andrew Tate, get what I get, burn my bridge kind of way, then of course they're going to fail. And that does not prove that relationships don't work. That proves, to me anyway, and you're free to argue against it, it proves to me that your strategy is rubbish. It doesn't work in the real world. But again, it could be a philosophical argument. You do what you do. But I can tell you, I've had a number of long-term relationships in my life that lasted more than a couple of years, that until they started to fail, I had a good time, compared to guys these days that believe in the binary, she'll never love you, women are hopeless, it doesn't matter what you do, I don't need to have like high standards, I don't need to operate like a grandfather, I would be proud to be mentoring me. I'm just going to swipe left and right on Tinder, bang him, and then leave, I'm just going to do that over and over again and watch Pearl or the Fresh and Fit and stuff, and that's going to be my calibrating Bible to dating and relationships. So good luck. Good luck. Jables, thank you for the super chat. Oh, also, before I forget, thank you for the super chat as well, Prince Revolver. I appreciate it. Thank you to Jables for the super chat. I appreciate this too. He says, or she says, much love from Ireland Human. Love your work, man. Take it easy. And if it comes easy, take it twice. Peace. Nice way of putting it. Any more comments, guys? We're nearly upon an hour. And I want to see if I can do a stream in under an hour. So again, the title of this stream is, I want you to think about, are you using the tactics of women that we really don't respect, that we rightfully point to, and they're awful people that just took advantage of you and probably other people, and they should be condemned. Yet you are taking the same tactics and using the same tactics as they are. And as a way of never being hurt again, you're saying, well, I was too nice and I got hurt by too many people where it was all about them. It's a one-way street. And I just kept my mouth shut and kept saying yes. And you know what? I learned my lesson, and the lesson is it's going to be all about me now, and not in a healthy boundary kind of way, but I'm going to act like they acted, and let's see if they like it. But the next person you could meet, she could be the person that you wish you would have met when you first started dating with your fair, naive approach, and she was pretty fair and naive as well. Or maybe as you've gotten older, there's less naivety, but you're both trying to, really be fair about this. Like, I don't want to act like a child. I don't respect that behavior. I'm going to set boundaries up so I don't go on second dates with these people anymore. I don't, at the very least, I think long and hard, and I take my time before I even commit to monogamy with any of these people. I'm tired of wasting time. I'm tired of being hurt. That's healthier, rather than you convince yourself that being as tough and using people as much as your exes and your bad choices might have led you to, that's the answer. It's not. There are some things that Andrew Tate said that are wholly accurate, and they're a great posture to be able to calibrate yourself towards, to get yourself back, to lean much more away from the nice guy that was walked all over. But some of the extreme salesman tactics that you will burn bridges and you treat people like garbage, I would say aren't. So, Mecca, do you think it's better for men to just accept future is female? No. You can expect, I would say objectively, the world now is female. It's not the future. The present is female. What's your what do you demand? What posture do you demand that what you value in your life, your day-to-day, your routines, the people you're around, what you say no to and what you say yes to, how much of that is your life now? Generally, the world out there, that if you're on autopilot, it's a woman's world, and you run up against it all the time. The advertising, it's all female. So the future is not female. The future is present. It's here. Women have won. But how much of your world do you want to make yours? And how much of your world do you reject a lot of the female world out there? That's the question, from as far as I can see it. TJ says, humans changed over the years is one of the things I love about him. He took me away from anger and living hateful content and towards a more philosophical view of love and life. Cool. I'm glad. If you'd like to ask me a question, guys, remember 3 yellow or orange, very brightly colored circles before your question, so I know it's a question directed to me. Otherwise, I can't sort of see that you're asking me a question, because it just seems like a stream of comments. Jackdaw says, bro, it wasn't a meme when I was dating for years and I got ghosted so many times and I couldn't understand why until I accepted that they are always talking to multiple guys and cherry picking. Okay. I didn't read the comment. Yeah. You just need to just take it as a given. That initial dating period, you're both not committed to each other, even if you would like to be, your impulses might say, oh, well, she's great. I want to lock her in. There's a lot about her that's different. Make sure, just make sure, because there's nothing that hurts so much as wasted time with a guy. And a lot of the hurt we feel is the time and investment we put into the wrong person who may have been putting on a mask in the dating phase. How can how can you make sure you don't waste your time? Well, you can go the easy childish route. Like I said, a lot of guys saying, well, you're always wasting your time trying to date long term if you believe in love. Yeah, that's a solution. But also, what's another realistic solution is if you date maturely, if you want to date, that is, again, you don't have to. But if you say stay frosty and be very mistrusting of the hormonally charged kind of feelings aspect of your emotions during the dating phase. Hold it at arm's length. Don't commit to anything through conversation. That's the only way you're going to speed up a process if you want to. But it's also a way you're actually going to see if the imaginary concept you have of what the potential of this person might be is actually real. You can keep your mouth shut and still believe in this perfect relationship, what it could be, the more you keep your mouth shut, because you don't want to ruin it. Or you can make it real, insist upon it being real by communicating with her on the first date, second date. If she doesn't like it, bad luck. She can go and date someone else. It's easier to accept the loss of a beautiful woman that you're blown away by on the first date or so. It's much easier to say, well, I went on a date with this gorgeous woman and you didn't get to go to bed with her. But that's not real. For me, real is when I confirm it's much more real through conversation, time, a lack of contradictions, and she becomes this real thing. Then it's something to talk about. Then she's more real to go to bed with, to have a relationship with, and so on and so forth. But if you're running to it like a 5-year-old running to a chocolate cake because you can't help yourself, and then saying later in a supposed mature conversation with the guys on the manosphere, oh, women are like this. No, little girls and little boys are like this who can't curb their enthusiasm. Again, I'm not putting you down because I've been there too, but it's all how we approach things too, and how much we can, take statistics with not just a grain of salt, because they're more than a grain of salt. Statistics, reality, and data out there are much more than a grain of salt, but you need to relate them to how you are actually living and what choices you're making. You cannot let the world hold your hand like a 5-year-old, especially when you don't need your held hand in certain areas. Anyway. Ted1775 says, are you going to gild it after this stream? I'm not sure if I will today, but I might check in later today. I need to do some things today, real life and all that. I did jump on Gilded last week after about 15 minutes, but no one was there. So, go figure. But for anyone else who wants to kind of get together with a bunch of you guys who comment during my streams, jump on my Gilded server. Link to that is in my About section of my YouTube channel. And if you've got a microphone, you can chat amongst yourselves, and I drop in whenever I have time. Gangster says, I see a lot of videos of diagnosis of the modern dating bias. Seem to find no solutions other than regular work on yourself rhetoric. What's your strategy? Work on yourself is a great direction. It's kind of like, here you go, look at this word, work on yourself. Okay, how? And everyone says, well, here's a bunch of platitudes. I think the more you stay focused on work, you need to create your own list of how you need to work on yourself. Create your own list of mentally and both physically of what works for you, what language works, what habits work. So too many of us, we listen to really clever, accurate sayings like work on yourself or great memes, and people say the memes will take care of me. No, the memes are a very concise, poetic illumination of where you should be discussing and continually discussing until you develop your vocabulary in that direction. So work on yourself is a great direction. Go in that direction. But a lot of people, it's like, well, there's a direction and I'm just going to stare at it. And I think that's going to solve how I speak and act. It's a direction that you need to go down. And work on. And through these kind of conversations, you can really start to think and write down, start practicing how you say your hellos and goodbyes and the discussions you have with pedestrians in your life. Ted1775, what are all those photos behind you on the brick wall? For one, they're not a brick wall. But they're just all postcards I've collected over the years. I just like them because they've, back, I think more than 10 years ago, there used to be more of them around the city in Melbourne, Australia, where they would be great ways for companies to advertise, where they would print on one side a really beautiful picture or design. It was really nice and colorful, like a lot of those are. And on the back, there would be room for a postcard. You could actually send these to people, but they would also have business details. So they were a great way of marketing a business, but also if you just wanted a really cool postcard. And I collected them because I'm a designer in my professional life. And over time I collected them, but now I found them useful because I wanted a backdrop to streams that wasn't just a plain brick wall. See, despite there's a lot of guys who are very analytical and STEM based, very scientific. And there's a lot of people who are just very emotional. I'm kind of somewhere I'm trying to dance in the middle. Because I do believe life, on the whole, life is a very aesthetic experience. I conduct myself when I want a lot of meaning and emotion in life, but I'm not going to go in it blindly. And because I'm a creative person, I plan my creativity, I strategize, I write my videos, I create them the way I do. There's a lot of structure to how I want to create and how the resultant feelings and the outcomes. So I'm always dancing to and from. So I try and have a hold on reality, what works, the structure, science. So I'm not just kind of fooling myself and dancing on air, but also I want grounding too. So with which to, I want to be able to get to feelings predictably, not just rely on luck. Feelings are emotion, but how you approach them, you can use a lot of skill to get there. You can use a lot of logic to get to the feelings you want. I think because just general emotions that pop up are spontaneous and they're just feelings that pop up out of nowhere, that strategizing towards having those same feelings, you can't do them because logic, it's either feelings or it's pure math. And some of the guys don't factor themselves into how they're going to go about doing it. They just say, well, the manosphere, the science are there, biology and women. That's the way I'm going to approach it. But if it's not how you enjoy living life, you're not going to even get there. If that makes sense. I think I butchered that. It doesn't really make sense, but happy to discuss later. Anyway, let's wrap up the stream. I've gone just over an hour, as someone's pointed out. If there are no further questions, I'll give it another minute. So if you've got any last super chats in the last 30 seconds, drop them now. I'll read them out during the stream. Or questions, 3 brightly colored emojis, and we'll wrap up the stream. And for any of you who want to continue talking, if you have a microphone, jump on my Gilded server, have a chat after this stream is ended. And subscribe to the channel, shill my channel out to your friends. If you think someone will get something out of it, will enjoy it, will find it something to sort of discuss with them. And yeah, we'll wrap up in a little while, guys. But thanks for turning up on your Saturday night or Sunday morning. Let's get back to the main screen. Let's see, have I missed anything? As you guys think about any last questions, I'll go through some of the... Jackdaw says, my experience has specifically taught me that adherence to women's expectations, even by way of healthy compromise, is a mistake. It's always an erosion. I'm too belligerent now to compromise. Look, if you're living a good life, who am I to tell you to change, right? I'm just saying to be honest about how you feel in the strategies you're using now. If you sleep soundly at night, if you're really enjoying your life, then fine, do what you're doing. But I got to the point where, yeah, it was living bitter tastes in my mouth here and there, and my color world was fading to black and white slowly. So just do what works. But I would suggest if what works is walking all over people, yeah, good short-term strategy. And you think, well, yeah, later on I'll get serious. It's no different to women who sort of party and ride the carousel when they're in their 20s and they say, yeah, I'll be a good person later. I'll be a good mother later. I'll start a family. I'll be a decent girl later. No. Your history, if it doesn't follow you in the eyes of another, it will follow you in the way you act, how you speak, what you believe, in your little reactions, the little micro things that come out. And there's no use saying when someone finds out who you were before they met you and they say, well, I can't live with that, or you lied about it, or this was an act. And you're saying, well, if I said that, you would have left. It's like, damn straight. Like I'm leaving now. What hurts more? You know, I suggest don't do it in the future. Some guys tolerate it, but for the women out there and the guys, but mostly for the women, put on the act. The tears can work, but for a guy that's jaded after women using him more and more, those tears mean nothing. Like, for instance, I noticed with myself, as I got older, tears from women actually didn't, it started to change. Tears for women used to cause sympathy from me. When I got older and heard, like I was dating a woman and, you know, at some point I loved her and then things turned south and then I saw she lied and she started to use tears. It was no longer sympathy. I started to get angry and annoyed. Like, so guys who are jaded and who are fed up with this, tears no longer elicit a positive emotional response towards women like they ought to. You know, you want to care for women and love women, especially a woman that you did love. She should deserve more of that sympathy. But what tends to happen is like, it's the opposite. Like I hold you in contempt. Like I don't want to be around you. Like now you've just shattered everything. And so, and I've noticed that even as I got older, so I see tears on women and I just feel nothing. But if I'm dating a woman and then I see after a time that the mask drops and she's not who she was, and it's like, well, if I told you who I was, you wouldn't have liked it or you would have left. I just get pissed off. So, word to the wise, if you want to become wiser, drop the act. Just drop the act. And stop wasting time. Anyway, any last questions? Any last super chats? Let's see. Okay, looks like there's none. All right, let's wrap up the stream if there's no more. Thanks for joining. Don't forget to subscribe, share the videos around. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video or stream, guys. Have a good weekend. Bye.